Surely, Prime Minister, it's now time, isn't it? It must be time, Prime Minister. I am out here, outside Aldi, shopping with my wife. My wife is insulin-dependent diabetic. I am not only insulin-dependent diabetic, but I also have heart problems, suffer from sleep apnea, and have ulcerative colitis stroke Crohn's. We're shopping outside Aldi at, she's in it, I'm shopping outside it, at a relatively quiet time. We're also trying to shop for our neighbour, because we know they can't get out, and they don't want to go out. I've seen a man in a car just drive next to me, ahead of me in park, like a woman I've seen earlier. He's muffled up in a scarf as though it's winter. It's actually quite warm inside the car because I'm sitting in direct sunlight. He's not doing too good a job of parking, but I expect that's probably because he's a bit scared at the moment. Yep. So I'm looking at all these things. Yeah. Mr. Johnson, I'll even call you by your proper name. I ask you this. You say a lot about vulnerable groups. Under your government, 130,000 sick and disabled people were economically murdered. Mr. Johnson, you say a lot about caring for the weak, the old, the sick, protecting us. If you really mean that, Mr. Johnson, if you really, really mean that, I'm afraid your idea of social distancing is not working. It's never going to work. People have been brought up, taught to be selfish. They've been taught to get right up next to each other. They've been taught to invade each other's space. They've been taught to push to the front of the queue. I mean, even to the extent that they'll tailgate behind you on the road at 70 miles an hour. Those are the kind of people you have in society, Mr. Johnson. They are not going to stop going out and congregating in public places, as you saw over the weekend, like Skegness, like town centres, like seasides, like National Trust property. People will not stop doing that, Mr. Johnson, just because you're telling them they have to be 6 feet apart. I am the world's most liberal of people. I did not vote for you. I will never vote for your government, no matter who is in charge, again in my whole life. Mr. Johnson, I am pleading with you. Before our NHS gets to a stage where it will be completely overwhelmed by the number of often us people being admitted to hospital, unable to breathe, coughing our lungs up. Mr. Johnson, I have worked for this country. I have paid national insurance. I have paid taxes. I am the father of 2 wonderful boys, one of whom is an NHS nurse and is working, I would imagine, round the clock at the moment in ICU. By profession in the past, I've been many things. I've also been a driving instructor. There are people on our roads today who hopefully are still driving as I taught them and have been practicing safe driving for life. Mr. Johnson, I appeal to you. When we have people driving and just ignoring the safety of everybody else, when they can do that, and it is a kind of a community activity, do you honestly think asking them to stay 6 feet apart without locking the country down is going to work? Because they won't. And as they don't, and the virus spreads further, more of us will become infected, and sadly, as we already know, because these deaths are died alone, more of us will die horrible, uncomfortable death. Listen, Mr. Johnson, do something. Do something good. Give an order. Lock the country down. Bring in the army. Do it now, Mr. Johnson. I'll return with my shopping and wait to see what happens.